In 1977, the Genovese Crime Family ordered the murder of surveillance expert Frank Chin. His body was found after he'd been shot 5 times in the face. Let's check it out. I'm James Gladwish and welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the Mafia-sanctioned murder of surveillance tech wizard Frank Chin. On January the 20th, 1977, the body of 48-year-old Frank Chin was found shot to death in Manhattan. As one newspaper reported, death for Frank Chin came in the garage of his Manhattan apartment building January 20, where he lived with his wife Lenore, a blonde former model. His burial was delayed until the frost-hard ground softened. Chin was shot in the face 5 times at close range. The murder weapon, a silencer-equipped .22 caliber pistol. So, who was Frank Chin, and why did the Mafia have him murdered? Frank Bok Chung Chin was an expert wiretapper. His specialist services made him a figure in demand in the shadowy world of private detectives and surveillance. In his younger years, Frank Chin would rebuild radios and then sell them in his Brooklyn neighborhood where he'd been born. His parents were Chinese restaurant owners. As one newspaper reported, as a teenager in Brooklyn during World War II, when radios were scarce, high school dropout Chin rebuilt old ones and sold them for new. Sometimes he made more money weekly than his parents did monthly at their small Chinese restaurant. As Frank Chin entered adulthood, he started experimenting with more sophisticated tech equipment. In the early 1970s, Frank Chin adapted an AM/FM cassette recorder so that it could receive sounds from a bug that was small enough to be hidden behind a wall socket. A state-of-the-art piece of equipment for its time. One newspaper outlined some of Frank Chin's impressive surveillance inventions. The paper states, Chin perfected an extraordinary tonal device, which he said bugged telephones long distances if the user dialed the number and blew into a small harmonica. He also made microphonic darts that could be shot into exterior walls from distances of 500 feet. And he handcrafted sophisticated transmitters for the backsides of electrical outlets. Frank Chin's surveillance expertise put him top of the pile in that industry. But as mob historian and author Scott Digilio writes in his book Hitmen, he wasn't listed in the phone book and didn't hand out business cards to prospective clients. If you wanted him, you had to know someone who had his unlisted number. To the general public, Frank Chin was a man who ran an electronics supply store in New York. But it is reported that Chin offered his sophisticated surveillance services to both sides of the law. One source said, he sold them, I'm telling ya, to everybody. He barred nobody. He was with the government, he was with the mob. He was with anybody that cared to be with him. Frank Chin would allegedly help wealthy politicians spy on their cheating spouses. He also assisted law enforcement and allegedly helped the famous Knapp Commission investigate corrupt police officers. In addition, there was even a rumour that he was involved in the infamous Watergate burglary. Frank Chin loved the high life that came with the expensive fees that he charged his wealthy clients. He was a dashing figure who was described as resembling a Chinese Anthony Quinn. As one newspaper reported, women attracted to Chin saw him as a Chinese Anthony Quinn, a macho man for all seasons, a dashing, devil-may-care type who sometimes raced along Connecticut's winding roads at 130 miles per hour in one of his sports cars. No strong silent type, Chin was an articulate and witty man, whose dinner table conversations at the Gelston House in East Haddam sometimes regaled all within earshot. So, let's go back to the question, Why was Frank Chin shot 5 times in the face by the mob? In 1972, an undercover federal agent posing as a client managed to persuade Frank Chin to become a federal informant. As one newspaper reported, as wily as Chin was, he met his match in the man who managed to persuade him in 1972 he was a private investigator from Phoenix, Arizona, looking for Chin's services. In truth, the Arizona PI was a Justice Department agent with 30 years on the street who turned Chin for the government. Once compromised, Chin was called upon from time to time to work undercover for Uncle Sam, work he relished. He loved the intrigue, he really did, a friend said. As mentioned, Frank Chin worked both sides of the law, with both criminal and government clients, which some say gave Chin a thrill. However, his role as a federal informant would always have Chin walking a dangerous path. Law enforcement states that in 1977, Frank Chin was due to provide evidence or testimony for an upcoming trial of the powerful and greatly feared Genovese crime family mobster John Digilio. John Digilio was a prominent and influential figure in the New Jersey faction of the Genovese crime family. I've covered his life in greater detail in a previous video. The link to this is in the comments below. And so, with Frank Chin scheduled to allegedly testify against Digilio, the mob moved quickly to eliminate the threat, and Frank Chin was gunned down. As Scott Digilio covers in his book Hitmen, on the evening of Thursday, January 20, 1977, a woman who lived in the building on West 96th Street where Frank Chin had his workshop saw a body lying in the parking garage where Frank kept his red Alfa Romeo and black 1969 Mercedes-Benz sedan. As she walked up, she recognized the body as Frank Chin. He had been shot 5 times in the face at close range. He was lying right next to his Mercedes. One of the tires was flat, a ruse put there by the gunman to distract Chin, setting him up as an easy target for the assassin. And the fact that it was Thursday, the day when Frank got in his car and drove up to his Connecticut hangout for the weekend, made him an easy mark for someone paying even peripheral attention to his routine. The police suspected that the gunman in the Frank Chin hit was one of John Digilio's crew members, Richard Bocci DeSiscio. Throughout his mob career, Richard DeSiscio was allegedly involved in several gangland murders. Some sources state that DeSiscio was Genovese family consigliere Louis Bobby Manna's most trusted gunman. In 1988, over a decade after Frank Chin's killing, Richard DeSiscio was charged with his murder. Richard DeSiscio was also later indicted for the murder of Irwin Schiff, as well as conspiring to murder John and Jean Gotti. One newspaper described DeSiscio: Richard Bocci DeSiscio, 42, alleged mob associate involved in gambling, loan sharking, theft. Operated under auspices of slain Genovese soldier John Digilio. FBI files described DeSiscio as an enforcer with a penchant for violence. Was a suspect in 2 murders. Arrested for arson and possession of stolen property. Although law enforcement firmly believed that DeSiscio was the hitman in the Frank Chin killing, he was not convicted of that murder. However, he was sentenced for the killing of Irwin Schiff and conspiracy to murder John and Jean Gotti. Years before his murder, Frank Chin's father had actually predicted his son's demise, stating, "The way you're going," the man from the old world told his son, "you are going to die by the gun or the knife." A statement that was actually echoed by Frank Chin, who once said, "I think my father was right. I don't think I'll live beyond 50. Frank Bok Chung Chin, the enigmatic surveillance expert, was 48 years old when he was murdered. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.